We on the podcast, baby.
Club Talk. Jay Brody. Yeah, baby, it's that Club Talk. Yeah, baby, it's that Club Talk. You're now listening to that Club Talk. And now, your host, Jay Brody. 1, 2, 1, 2, ha!
All right, welcome back to another episode of Cloth Talk Podcast. Before we get into today's episode, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, like, leave a comment. If you are listening on any podcast app of your choice, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you're listening on, if this is your first time checking it out, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Leave me your rating so you can help your boy move up in the rankings. I greatly appreciate it. All right, now that we got that out the way, this next guest is long awaited. I don't know, people probably been speculating like, why hasn't this person been on the podcast yet? If you're watching on YouTube, you could see that she's nodding her head like about goddamn time. But let me just run off some of the accolades and accomplishment of this individual. So she's been featured in heragenda.com, Quirktastic, Mashable, Huffington Post, Innovative Magazine, Empire Life Magazine, Underground Boss, Columbus City Post, featured in an article with 52 young professionals to know in Columbus, and a host of other more stuff that I just can't even list. It will be here all day running down everything she's been involved in and a part of. It's Whitney Barkley, my wife.
Hey, it's about time.
Oh, here we go.
JK, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today.
Is it weird?
Yes, it is very weird. I mean, like, we talk all the time, but now I feel like I have to be a little bit more.
We live together. You see how I do this.
We're live from the basement, literally.
Yes.
We literally just had a conversation about dinner.
Yeah. What do we want to have?
I don't know yet. You said you want a salad. I'm thinking about something else.
Okay. All right. We got a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. So what I wanted to start off with is, as you can see, I got all my notes right here. People who's watching on YouTube, I got some notes, but we're going to try to run through this stuff. Obviously, I can't fit everything.
I don't expect you to.
So what I thought about in preparing for this episode, right, is that, how to approach this, that you're being, my wife, and we've known each other for a decade. Yeah. And so.
You make it sound so long.
I mean, but we're still young.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, you was 20. I was 20 when I met you.
And I was 19 when I met you.
Exactly. So it's a lot of. I can't cover a decade in one episode.
We can't.
So, but what I wanted to do is, I know you from what people know you of you, and I wanted to kind of approach this. I want to kind of give people, for those who know you, and I'm pretty sure all your supporters and people who follow you are probably going to want to watch this or listen to this to probably know more about you. So I wanted to kind of take that angle with it. So start from the beginning. You were born and raised here in Columbus.
That's right. OH. Y'all know the rest.
Right. So you grew up, and you grown up being teased about being a skinny girl. Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to kind of to touch on was like how that, because you turned that your life experience to a platform of empowerment. When did you realize, that was that an agenda or goal for you? Like, being a skinny girl, I don't see a lot of platforms for girls like me. I want to start a platform and, go full head of steam with it, because it's not a popular thing that people will probably, we always see the, the thick girl, they all in the videos, the vixens and all that stuff. Then here you come, you know what, I want to, put empowerment on skinny girls. What was that thinking when you started that?
Well, what you're referring to is the Skinny Black Girls Code.
Right.
I started the Skinny Black Girls Code in 2014. Back in that time, which was not too long ago, right. I had the realization that I really had a lot of deep psychological issues when it came to my body and my weight, most particularly from the ages of 12 moving up. Because, I was growing up in the era where, you watched the music video, you had the girls with the Coke bottle shapes, if you weren't shaped like Buffy the Body, like it didn't mean anything. And, and even with like the boys my age, that was the expectation. Like any boy you ever talked to, they're like, I want a thick girl. They didn't say, oh, I wanted a girl with glasses, or I wanted a girl that was smart, or, someone, that had the characteristics that I had.
Right.
So
you feel like you was being overlooked?
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was being overlooked, and, it really, it weighed down on my self-esteem, and I think it does for a lot of young women who, are navigating through this world. They want to be liked, they want to be accepted. I mean, not just by the opposite sex, but, just even amongst their friends. Because, I even had friends who told me I needed to eat something and I need to put meat on my bones. And, at first I didn't think that it affected me, but over the years, I started to watch the things that I did. I used to tell people that I was on a Jesus and cornbread diet. I literally went through a phase of my life where I would binge eat anything I could get my hands on that I thought could make me gain weight. And it never happened for me. Now, things have changed. The game has switched now as an older adult, but, I try to do everything in my power to gain weight and to be more. And then the way that Skinny Black Girls Code started was, I was working in Cincinnati, and I remember I was the associate director of a company, and I was in this meeting. It was a big meeting. I had this big presentation, and I had spent a long time preparing for it. I was very confident about it. And, when I went to open my mouth, they had like donuts in the room, and they were telling me like, oh, y'all better save one for Whitney because she's gonna need one. And I'm just like, what? Like, this is a professional environment. Like, why are we talking about this right now? Like, why is this even a discussion point? And so from then, that just kind of, I wanted to speak about my experience, and, and I reached out to other people that, that I knew physically, that were skinny girls. And I would ask them like, hey, what was your experience when you were a kid? What's your experience now? And, and it's crazy because women from all over, like I've literally had women in South Africa, all over the country of the United States, people who have reached out to me and told me about their story. So it was very valid. It was just something that I wrote as a blog post. I didn't think it would actually go anywhere, but I had that platform for about 3 years until I realized like, okay, I'm good. I feel really good about myself and where I am, and it's okay for me not to be, what I see, because I am who I am and I accept who I am.
Yeah, you mentioned, being like the smart kid with glasses, and mostly all your classes and throughout your I guess your education career, so to speak. I'm curious to know, because I wasn't that at all. I wasn't the smart guy or smart person in class. But for you, that's something that, education is something that you excelled at very well. And then up until the point where I met you, and, in college, I just seen, your how hard you would go at your academics, how seriously you took it. And I never seen that from, so I'm like, man, like she go really hard with this like education stuff. Like, what the fuck? Like damn, like that's really serious to her. Were you always like that? Like just smart?
I've always been like that.
Where do you think that come from?
Well, my mom started me off really young. I wasn't the only child. I'm the youngest of 5 of my mother's children, but most of my siblings are super older than I am. My oldest sibling is, almost hitting her 50s at this point. So, when I was younger, my mom would always make, I wouldn't say she made me read, but she encouraged me to read a lot. So we would go to the library every week. We would read books. My grandfather was like a mechanic. He was very hands-on with his hands. So he would teach me things like science. Like we would go to his, his garage, and he would teach me how things work, of like how to invent. And I've always been into education because education was all that I had, you know, like obviously physically I didn't compete with everybody else. So, that was the one thing that nobody could ever take away from me. And then also given the fact of my parents, my mom finished school when she was 17 and my dad never made it to high school, you know, so getting an education has always been something that's very important to me because I felt like I needed to carry our generation. I need to carry our family and, you know, to do something different that no one has ever done before. I mean, I never even knew what college was until I went to the 8th grade and I had this teacher like, when you guys go to college, and we're like, what the hell is college? But
well, you were hitting me. I didn't know about college till 12th grade.
So. Oh, I mean, that's okay. I mean, but you know, that comes from the types of schools that we went to. But you know, I mean, we both went to, you know, pretty inner city schools. So, you know, it's different in other environments where they're teaching college from kindergarten, you know, like they're teaching them like your graduation date's going to be such and such. And it's like, I just got here. Like, why are we worried about it? Yeah. So, you know, it's a different thing, you know, when you learn about college. And then when I learned about college, I'm like, so how do you go all the way? And, you know, I found out that 3% of people get their PhD. And so in my head, I had to be a part of that 3%.
So you looked at it as a challenge.
Yes, it was a challenge for me. It was a challenge. And again, education was just something nobody could take away from me. Nobody couldn't tell me that I wasn't smart because I could talk circles around people. I use words that grown people didn't even know. So, you know, it was just something that I definitely prided myself on. And, you know, regardless of what was happening in my life could be in complete shambles, but I bet I still get an A.
Right. So did you have like a direction with, you know, going hard with like your education? Like I'm going hard at education so I could set myself up for this, or was it just like I just want to consume and learn as much as I can in good grades? Was it ever a goal, or is it something that you just
It's a combination of both. Yeah. It was a combination of, I'm a naturally curious person. So education is life. That's why, like, if you look at any of my platforms, anything that I do, like, I'm always trying to share. I'm always trying to teach. I actually was a teacher at one point in my life. You know, that's something that's a part of me because I feel like, you know, when you have something, if you're educated, you should always share with other people because it's selfish if you don't. You know, we can only be as good as the next person, and we have to start by being able to share the things that we learn so we can impart that knowledge into the next generation. But as far as like having a goal, I mean, I've always been goal oriented. I'm not gonna say that my goals always stayed the same because I used to be the kind of person that kind of flew with the wind. Like, if something felt good, I just kind of went with it versus always being kind of standard. You know how you have those people who are like, I'm going to be a doctor when they're 5 and they literally grow up and be a doctor. Yeah. Man, I done had about 20 careers in my head since, you know, I was a little girl. So, and to pick entrepreneurship, I think is very fitting for me because entrepreneurship is not a place where you're in a box. You can reinvent yourself as an entrepreneur and you have the options to take on whatever it is that you want. You're not limited to, you know, things that might come with just being in a career.
Right. I wanted to, you know, talk about a little bit about like the society and their, you know, the social construct of body image. You know, it's like going back to that skinny girl thing, you know, just talking from like a male's point of view, and you know me, you know, like most of my you know, before you, most of my girlfriends or, you know, people that I've dealt with, you know, women wise, were thicker women or fuller. If y'all watching on YouTube, y'all just see this face. But yeah, like you're probably like you're the first, you know, person who, you know, I've met, got a relationship with, who wasn't, you know, what I was used to like in the past, you know, as far as like girls I've dealt with. And I just thought, I was just thinking about it, like, man, like, as far as like men being brainwashed too, as far as that's the type of woman you need to go at after the thick woman, the one with the curves, big titties, big ass, all that stuff. And it just made me think, like, man, that's so true. Because like, you know, like after school, like, for example, like me and my boys after high school, when the day was over, or if it was after football practice or something, we would literally go out and we would go girl hunting. We would have contests, you know, to see who could get the most numbers, who could get the baddest chicks. And if it was like you brought something back, like yo, I got this girl number. What would she look like? That was the first thing. Like, what would she look like? She got fat ass, fat titties. It wasn't nothing else. Like, yo, you know, what did she do with school, or, you know, none of that. It was just like, yo, what she look like? She got fat ass, she got fat titties. And it just made me think like, damn, like, men, we've been brainwashed, and we also been, you know, shaped to believe that this is the type of woman you need, rather than looking at the person for who they are. And then when I met you, it was like, you know, it's not, because you get older, it's like, you know, it's not about that. It's just not about a chick having fat ass or big titties. You accept them, you know, for who they are. If y'all get along, that's all it needs to be. Because truthfully, honestly, the girls who I've met with that had the banging bodies, that was, you know, a 10 or a dime or whatever you want to call it, they didn't have no personality. They didn't have no conversation skills. I mean, they were just eye candy, to be truthful, and they didn't really last. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, for you, you know, you gotta, as far as like, you know, you having a relationship, you gotta compete with that. You gotta compete with the thick girl, you know, who all the men are salivating at. Then there you are, you just like, hello, I'm, you know, I would like to, you know, be approached or something like that. You talk about self-esteem. How much did that damage do to you? You not being, you know, not saying that you didn't get approached at all, but you seeing the attention that all those type of girls got versus you. Did that kind of like just like really damage your self-esteem seeing that?
Absolutely. I mean, it was very damaging for me to see things, because, you know, like, and it's so funny because, like, I feel like I've always been the homegirl, right? Like, I've always had male friends around me who confided in me. You know, they would talk to me about stuff. You know, like, guys are very comfortable with me. They're very comfortable telling me, like, they talk to me like I'm a guy. So, you know, like, I remember being in school. I remember having a crush on this guy when I was in school, and you know, he never knew that I had a crush on him. But, you know, me and him were good friends. You know, we would rap together. We would eat lunch together. Our lockers are right next to each other. Like, I had a combination in his locker, and you know, all kind of stuff. We were really good friends, and you know, and he was just crushing on this girl, and the girl was a nice girl. She was a really nice girl.
Did she fit that mold?
Yeah, she fit the mold, and you know, she was, you know, light skinned, short, you know, had a really nice body. I mean, she was a beautiful girl. And you know, like, he would just talk to me about her, and I'd be like, man, I'm like, but that's just not the one for you. Like, she's not good for you. And you know, it's funny because, you know, like, middle school relationships are like so elementary. You know, like, they got together, they were together for like 2 weeks, and it was over. But you know, he had spent months salivating over this girl to find out that she really wasn't the girl for him. And it's so funny because this guy later approached me later on in life, like, man, we should have got together, we should have did whatever. And it's just like, all right, you know, like, I'm in a different place right now. But you know, you see that a lot. And I guess it was hurtful for me because, you know, again, it wasn't that, you know, I didn't have any kind of interaction with guys. I mean, I had a lot of guy friends, and I just didn't get what I saw. And eventually I got over it. You know, I just said, you know, it is what it is. You know, the people who will find me will. But then, you know, I started to build up my own type of confidence. And I wouldn't say that it was the best type of confidence. It was a little bit more negative. I started doing things to make myself seem more.
What type of things would you do?
I mean, I have Thug Life tattooed on my chest. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I just thought it was a great conversation piece. You know, people come up to me like, well, you know, what happened? Like, you know, you got somebody in jail? Did you kill somebody? Like,
they really
you know,
think you're a thug.
Yeah. You know, like, literally, there's people here who will call me Thug Life because they've seen the tattoo.
You like that attention, though.
I did. I did. Now I don't, because I'm in a different place in my life, you know. You know, my tattoo has a meaning: truthful, humble, unique, and genuine life. But I mean, when you see Thug Life, you're like, what? You know, like, what's happening with her? But you know, it's, you know, I did things like that. The way I used to dress is very provocative. My mom used to get on me all the time. Like, you know, she would want me to put on clothes. Like, I would take clothes and change when I went to school. Because, you know, like, I knew if I tried to leave a house, my mom wouldn't have that, you know, like, so, you know, my whole, like, the whole way that I saw myself, I had to change it because I wanted to make sure that I was good enough to the standards of the world.
Let's fast forward a little bit. Like, I want to talk about how you got into, well, I know, but talk about your journey to becoming, you know, like, now you're a full-time entrepreneur. So I just wanted to, like, kind of take a glimpse into that, deciding to leave, you know, your full-time job, because You know, I see people, you know, ask you all the time, and you know, they come up to you like, you know, what advice would you give me to leave my job to become a full-time entrepreneur? I want to quit my job. I'm tired of this. I want to start my own business and stuff. When you did that, right? Mm-hmm. Did you was it that you were fed up with working, or did you have this idea? Did you have a direction? Did you have it all mapped out? Did you have all the answers, or was it just a leap of faith? Like, you know what, I'm gonna quit this fucking job and whatever happens.
It was a combination of all those things. I feel like, I mean, when I had the idea for my first business, which failed, you know, and I'm okay to say that it failed. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's important for people to hear that too. Yeah. I think a lot of people have this impression when they look at you like, damn, Whitney's successful. She got it going on. They don't know about all, you know.
Oh no, there's been plenty of failures behind the things that you see. Yeah. I mean, you know, I only share so much on social media. Social media is just a highlight reel. You know, I see what I want people to see, but a lot of people don't really get to see, you know, some of those failures. But when I initially started in entrepreneurship, it wasn't something that I initially sought out, because my dad is an entrepreneur. He owns a cleaning business. And I was like, man, my dad always was on the phone. People would call him at all times of the day. He would never have time to, you know, to spend with his family because he was always at work. And I was like, well, if this is what running a business is like, I don't want it. But later on, I had an idea, and really, I wouldn't even say that it was an idea. It was a vision, right? Because, you know, ideas are something that comes and go, but a vision is something that tugs at you, right? So I had this vision of starting this company, and the vision would never leave me. And I found myself at work, and I was thinking more about the vision more than I was about my work. So I'm like, all right, I got to do this. I have to leave my job. I have to figure this out. So, you know, I made a decent amount of money at that job to where I was actually able to save some money so I could leave comfortably for at least a couple of months. And the one piece of advice that I would give to anyone who's looking to leave their full-time job and to go into entrepreneurship is to make sure that you're not being lukewarm. That is probably the biggest thing. And the reason I say that is because I quit my job, but my job was like, oh no, we love you. We want you to stay. Come on as another role. You can, you know, work part-time, work however many hours you want to. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, you know, I got one foot in the door and I got one foot out the door, but I wasn't supposed to do that. And I think that was something that was divine, because, and excuse me for getting a little spiritual, but like, I feel like when God calls you to do something, like, you have to answer the call. Like, you have to listen to what he's telling you to do, because if you don't do it when he tells you to do it, he's going to find a way to make you do it if you don't be obedient to what it is that he wants you to do. So even though, like, I knew I wasn't supposed to be there, I got scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need that cushion. I need to feel safe. I need that extra money. So I stayed. And it's so funny because I was there for a month, and they ended up laying me off anyway because, you know, the company was going through some changes. I mean, it wasn't because of my performance or anything like that. The company just was going through changes, and they couldn't afford to keep me. And I remember, you know, when they told me like, yeah, you know, this is your last day, a part of me felt like petrified. But a part of me was like, I should be doing cartwheels right now because it's finally over. You know, I don't feel like I need to be obligated to be here. Right. And I left. I did still end up getting a part-time job, but it was in my favor. I worked as a social media instructor for a school that was in Dayton. We lived in Cincinnati at the time. Right. And, you know, that gave me the flexibility to do something that I love, which was teaching. I built the school's entire social media curriculum. Yeah. And, you know, I taught. And I worked on my business, and I kept doing that for a while. And I got to a place where my business started to exceed, you know, what it was I was doing at work. Like, when you get to a place where you got to reject business to go to work, that's when it's time to go. That's when you know that you're growing. Yeah. So, you know, I put myself in that position to leave. And I've been a full-time entrepreneur since 2018. So, yep, I left in April of 2018, and and I've been doing this full time. Like, I have no like other jobs or anything else. Like, this is all that I do. You know, my livelihood depends on the work that I create. Right. But, you know, I always think back to that moment of me working and like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. And if you're going to be scared, you know, fear is a part of the process. That's a part of the process of being an entrepreneur. You're never going to know exactly how things are going to turn out. Yeah. And the sooner that you embrace fear, the sooner that you can get towards your goal. Yeah,
I think that what holds a lot of people back from
because everybody wants to be comfortable. Yeah. You know, there's no such thing as comfort. I mean, to me, you're screwed either way. You can stay at a job and get fired, And then what you gonna do? You gonna look for another job, or you know, you could be an entrepreneur. You could try to make money. Sometimes you're gonna make money. Sometimes you may not make money. You know, sometimes you might have really great months, and sometimes like you may have sucky months. You know, it's totally up to you either way. But I just feel like with entrepreneurship, there's a sense of freedom that you have. You know, it's a sense of being able to execute the things that you want to do. And I'm not going to say it's so much freedom to where there are no rules or guidelines, because don't get it twisted. Just because you leave a 9 to 5 doesn't mean that you shouldn't run your business like a 9 to 5, because you should. Right. And that's just the mindset that I'm in this year, because I don't know if you've ever seen a little thing where it's like the 4 quadrants of entrepreneurship or where people work. So you got people who are employees and are self-employed. Then you got business owners and people who own corporations. Like, I'm trying to be on the right side of the spectrum. You know, I want to be the boss. Right. I'm not trying to be the employee. I'm not trying to be the self-employed. And, you know, my whole goal this year was just to make sure that I'm positioning myself for growth, because by the end of 2020, I'm not trying to do anything. Right. You know, I want to say I got people for that. Like, it's not me.
Exactly. You want to fade to the background.
Exactly. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy doing the work that I do, and there's certain people where I feel like I'll always do the work for them because of how they've supported me. Yeah.
You made good relationships with people.
Exactly. And that's the one thing about business that's so important, is relationships. You know, people are like, well, I never see you advertise your business or whatever, because I'm good at creating relationships with people. I know how to stay in touch with people. I know how to give people value so that they value the relationship that I have with them. You know, word of mouth marketing is some of the best marketing that you could ever do. And, you know, I am a true testament of that, because I don't advertise anything, which has been a blessing and a curse and it's, you know, in its own way. But for the most part, relationships have sustained me over the years.
All right. That's dope. It's a good time to take a quick break right here. We'll come back here on Cloth Talk Podcast. Whitney Barkley is here, my lovely wife. Real quick, before we go to break, where can they find you and connect with you at?
You guys can find me. It depends on what you want to connect with me for. If you like to listen to my podcast,
hold on. We're going to get into that later.
Okay. I won't plug it now. But if you want to follow me, I'm Whitney O. Barkley everywhere. Whitney O. Barkley on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
There you go. We'll be right back right here on Cloth Talk.
We on a podcast, baby.
Let's go. Yeah, let me think. Money on my mind, shit, I'm trying to fill the bank. Shoes on my shots, I don't even blink. You can't buy, I'll let y'all niggas fill the blank. Here we go again, this lifestyle again. Money I'ma stack, fuck it, I'ma spend. If it wasn't for the trap, I wouldn't be the same. R.I.P. Nipsey, all money, fuck the fame now. If it wasn't for the trap, Lord knows. Probably be back on the floor. Run around strapped for the dough. Empty niggas pocket for some more, like, yeah, understand life, having money is the plan. Niggas watch your pockets, they don't even want a chance. Devil wears powder, I don't even wanna dance, nah. Run the block about 1,000 times. Wanna hit me, you can fall in line, yeah. That's how it be when you on the grind. That's how it be when you on the grind, yeah. Run the block about 1,000 times. Wanna hit me, you can fall in line, yeah. That's how it be when you on the grind. That's how I be, I'm getting money, yeah. Yeah, life's a trip. Gambled out a price that you niggas wouldn't pick. Hustle just to live, buy some buildings, get a grip. The trap like it's scary when fast money takes a grip, yeah. Blocks hot, 100 raids. Summertime, sucker snitch. That shit means, what a bitch. Don't get involved if you wasn't for the shit. Put them niggas on and I'm the bad guy. That's why I'm in Miami dodging bad vibes. Stop it still these niggas cause the world mine. All I got is my word and my balls, right? But the plug for my means, it was 20K. Shit's cheaper down south, plus the sunny days. The way that things align got a funny way. Couple bags under my eyes, but my money straight. Yeah, ran the block about 1,000 times. Wanna hit me, you can fall in line. Yeah, that's how it be when you on the grind. That's how it be when you on the grind. Yeah, ran the block about 1,000 times. Wanna hit me, you can fall in line. Yeah, that's how it be when you on the grind. That's how it be, I'm getting money, yeah.
All right, and we are back right here on Cloth Talk Podcast. Whitney Barkley is here hanging out on the show. Was there ever a time where you doubted your abilities?
Every day.
Still to this day?
I still doubt my abilities.
Really?
To this day. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just a natural part of everyone. I think everyone has a little bit of imposter syndrome in them. I think over the years, I've built a better resilience to that. You know, in certain areas, like, you know, I feel like I'm untouchable. And then there are some areas where I do doubt myself. I feel like anything new, I start to doubt myself. But that kind of pushes me to want to learn more about it, you know, just because I'm naturally curious. And, you know, I just think doubt is a part of anything that you do. It's natural. I think a lot of times we try to suppress it like, oh, we're not supposed to have those feelings. But doubt is definitely something that you have to embrace as a part of your process.
Yeah. In the beginning of this podcast, I ran down like all your, you know, like, well, not all, just a little bit of stuff that you like been involved in and stuff that you featured in, you know, as far as, you know, your professional career goes as an entrepreneur and other things. But, you know, it doesn't stop there. You got academic awards, you know, valedictorian, 4.0, graduating at the top of your class, you know, all that stuff, all these accolades, all these awards. And I just wonder how much of that do you really care about that stuff? Like, I'm sure, you know, like you work hard for those things, but do you look at those things and, you know, you look at it like, does it matter to you?
I mean, I think they're great. You know, definitely those awards and recognitions, they add to your credibility. You know, from a marketing standpoint, it's great to be seen, you know, and to be recognized by organizations that are credible, because it just brings another layer of credibility to you. Yeah. But as far as me personally, like if you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, absolutely, I would have felt like my life is defined by those things. But the Whitney that is in front of you now, not so much. And the reason that I say that is because you have to be able to be in a position to define a level of success for yourself. So for me, success is not just what other people say about me. Success is me deciding what goals I'm going to, you know, reach for myself, and, you know, meeting or exceeding those goals. And my goals are not just financial. Like a lot of people define success as, oh, you got a big house, or you got a big car, you got a lot of money, you got whatever. And, you know, I feel like those things are nice. While they're very nice, it's a different type of success. And the success that I feel like I've reached for myself most recently, it's just being comfortable with myself. Like really get into a place where I know who I am and I'm standing in who I am. And I feel, you know, I feel the value that people have told me about myself over the years. You know, like, you know, I've had friends, you know, just people over the years who have told me like, man, Whitney, you shortchanging yourself. And, you know, I never would believe what they had to say until one day I really woke up and realized that I am shortchanging myself. I remember this was last year, you know, and this has been like a year-long process. At the beginning of 2019, I went on a trip and I found myself having a panic attack on a trip. And I remember sitting in a hotel room and I'm tripping, and all I heard was a voice, like, and I feel like this was God telling me, like, he's like, what are you doing? Like, you have everything that you need to succeed. You don't need anybody else's approval to do what it is that you do. And from then, like, my whole mindset has shifted. I swear to you. It's like I heard a voice, and, you know, and I believed it. I believed the voice that I heard. And, you know, and from then, you know, I just been a lot more unapologetic. I'm not saying that, you know, I just woke up one day like, oh, you know, I'm this bad mama jamma and I'm gonna do whatever I want. You know, those things came in layers. You know, my confidence has really evolved in layers over time. And, you know, and as I start to kind of unravel those layers, I'm more and more finding who I am. So I think for me, success is not those external things, but those things that you accomplish on the inside. Because when you win on the inside, you always gonna win on the outside.
So even winning, you know, all those awards and getting all these accolades, within you still felt like that. Like, you're not letting that validate you. You still felt as though like you had a long ways to go. Exactly.
And that's the thing about...
That's interesting, because most people say, well, I got the award, you know, and it stops for them right there.
No. If you're not continuously setting goals for yourself, you're not growing. And my whole thing is growth. I mean, those are just milestones to a larger journey. And, you know, my journey is something that... that's not going to just be defined by the awards and things that I get in between.
Yeah, you're probably like one of the most people who I've met that's like are like really driven. Like, where do you think your drive come from?
My drive?
Yeah.
I think my drive really comes from, I'll give a lot of credit to my dad. My dad has always been a very ambitious person. And, you know, I spent a lot of time with him growing up when I was a little girl, just kind of watching him go after his dreams and watching him, you know, I'll never forget the day that my dad got his first Mercedes Benz. Like, I know, like, I know, like, that's very material. But for him coming from where, like, y'all got to understand, my dad comes from Uniontown, Alabama. I ain't never been to Uniontown, Alabama, but for what my family tells me, it's literally like one street in, one street out. My dad came from a family of sharecroppers. You know, his dad was a sharecropper. You know, they lived in a house where, you know, they didn't even have like a regular floor. They had mud floors. You know what I mean? Around barefoot. You know, and this is the South. And my dad's only like 60 something years old, you know, and think about that. He's only 60 something years old. So this was still occurring in the South, you know, back in the 60s, you know, late 50s or 60s. So to see my dad and to know where he's come from, you know, someone who is not college educated, doesn't even have a high school diploma, you know, for him to bootstrap himself up, to get into positions to be directors, you know, at, you know, companies, and then starting his own company, and, you know, and getting his dream house, his dream car, like that meant everything to me. To see that from my dad was like, all right, I know if I do what I'm supposed to do, and if I put my mind towards something, it's going to happen for me. You know, like there is no, what if, like, it is going to happen for me, but I have to put in the work. And, you know, and I think that's why, you know, me being married to you, you know, early in our marriage, I was, you know, a super workaholic. I work a lot now, but not as much as I did before, because I was so driven. But now I realize, yes, you can be driven, but you also need a balance as well. So to answer your question, my dad is where a lot of that drive came from, because me seeing him dreaming and living the life that he's wanted has instilled in me that I can do the same thing. Tell me if you remember this. You know, talk about your dad, Robert White. Shout him out. Shout out to Robert White. Tell me if you remember this. We was in college. God. I had to do a project. It was a final project for a class that I had to do to complete the class and pass the class. And I had a blank. I didn't know what to do, and it was like last minute, and you helped me put this project together on your your father. You remember this? We went out. We came here. We came to Columbus. We drove from the college, Wilberforce University. We drove up here to where you're from, Columbus. Shout out to the Woo. We went to your dad's house and we interviewed him, and he was so nervous. He wasn't comfortable like speaking in front of a camera, none of that. But we did it, and we put it together. It was like last minute, and it helped me pass the goddamn class. And it was your idea, like last minute. I was just thinking about that, like you just speak about your dad. Like, damn, that's crazy. But moving on from that. Shout out to Dad, Robert, for helping you get a passing grade. I owe him in some way about that. I want to talk about you just being a woman in entrepreneurship. Okay. Because this is something that, you know, obviously, you know, we know the history, you know, of, you know, women fighting to be equal, and you know, all that stuff that goes on in that area. Now we're seeing today there's a tremendous growth of women entrepreneurs, specifically in your realm, Black women entrepreneurs. Right. There is a lot of growth if we look at it. Well, before, you know, it's still like this, is male dominated. Have you had to feel like you had to fight or go extra harder or not feel respected by your male counterpart when it comes to business? Like when you're in like a meeting with men, but can you feel
how they may perceive you or look at you like, oh, this this girl, she probably don't know nothing. Or
I feel like I felt that more in corporate America versus entrepreneurship.
Really?
Yeah, because in corporate America is levels to certain things, right? So people feel like they have seniority over you, and they feel like they can talk to you a certain way or treat you a certain way. And because you're in a corporate structure, you're limited as to what you can say because you don't want to be labeled as an angry black woman or, any of those labels and stereotypes that are associated with professional women in corporate America. But I would say in business, I've had some of those moments. It's not as many as I would say that I would have had in corporate America. Yeah. And I think that just comes with the quality and caliber of the type of people that you're attracting, right? So, again, my business is mostly word of mouth. So most of the time when people are sending me male clients, these are people who are already aware of my caliber of work, what I can get to them, what I can bring to the table. And, and they need somebody like me, so they're not going to disrespect me because either they're at their bottom line, they're in a place where, they can't really afford to mess around. So I don't get too many of those things, but I've definitely been in meetings where people have tried to be condescending, especially around prices. Hence my shirt. Can I give a shout out real quick?
Sure.
So I want to give a shout out to my accountant, Emerald Sparks. This is her shirt. I charge what I want. Yeah. She got on to me the other day because I did a video on somebody else's sweatshirt. So I decided to represent her today. So shout out to Emerald. Right. But, I think that's the issue that I have with a lot of I've had with male clients is that they don't want to pay me what I'm worth. They would rather pay another man a certain amount of money, but because I'm a woman, they don't think that, I should be paid what I'm asking for. Yeah. And, and I'm not going to lie. Like, there were times where I accepted that because, sometimes when you're in entrepreneurship, you're like, man, I just want to make $1. But, when you get to a place where you can choose clients, you don't choose that for yourself anymore because you lose a lot more than money. Yeah. You lose a lot of, self-respect when you do that.
Right. So you got to stand firm on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, when they look at you and, they ask me like, does she slow down? Like, does your wife slow down? And my mom, how my mom she always asks me, tell that girl slow down. Tell your wife to slow down. Do you, cause you're in it, you're not seeing what people are like when they're looking at you, the amount of ground that you cover quickly and your attention to your business and your vision. When people telling you to slow down, do you take heed to that, or you just like I gotta get it done, I gotta get this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that?
Before I didn't take heed to it. Before I just thought everybody was being a hater and didn't understand. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I just thought
to slow down because I
thought people was just hating. I
think they were genuinely just.
I know, and I get that now. I get that now. I'm like, they just mad because they not as driven as I am. But I apologize for having that mindset. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest.
Okay.
But I take heed to that now a lot more,
because being with you, I seen how that shit affect your health. It was like you would get sick, panic attacks.
Remember,
it was bad.
Yeah, I mean,
you wouldn't care. You would just keep going like the fuck.
Yeah, I know. I had chronic panic attacks at one point. I mean, Jerome could attest to that. I was having a panic attack every week. Yeah. Because of something.
You would not slow down.
I didn't slow down because I just always felt like I had something to prove. I felt like I always needed to be doing something. But one thing that I've learned, there's a difference between being busy and being productive.
Exactly.
And I think I surrounded myself with a lot of busy work to appear that I was being productive, but I really wasn't. I mean, not to say that I wasn't doing anything. Things were getting done, but it wasn't as deep as I made it for myself.
Exactly.
So my mind state now is a lot different. When people tell me to slow down, I do. Last year I had the opportunity to travel to Jamaica to relax and chill. That was my first time ever investing in my own, retreat. This year I'm going to Sedona, Arizona. Super excited about that. Shout out to Chandy Ray. She does these amazing retreats. I get to go and film them, but I also get to, so it's kind of like work, but not really. But, but I really do get to relax. She's one of the first people you know, like a lot of times people will invite me to come places to work or fake work or whatever.
Fake work.
I mean, yeah, because, you know, people invite me like, oh, come to this and you'll enjoy it and this and that. And when I get there, I end up working. But, you know, she was very firm at saying, Whit, this is your trip too. Like, you need to relax. She's like, you know, pull out your camera when you want to, when you think it's necessary, but you don't have to work. Like, you need to be here. This is your time to clear your mind and to prepare yourself. And that's really what I did. And I mean, and from that retreat, you know, I learned how to meditate and, you know, do all kinds of stuff that I had never did before. And that was my time. And this was literally just last October in 2019. And that's when I realized, like, I have to schedule time to take a break. And I actually did it before that retreat. My friend Emerald and I went to Hocking Hills last January, where, you know, it was our business retreat where we talked about business, but we read books. You know, we went on walks in the woods. You know, we did all kind of stuff that that I would typically never do, but it was relaxing and it put me in a different state of mind. So I do believe in slowing down because your health is your wealth. You don't want to be sitting there not being healthy, because if you're not healthy, then you can't serve your clients in the best possible way. So you do have to take time to pace yourself and understand that, you know, like I'm learning, like if it doesn't get done, I got tomorrow. Yeah. Like I'm okay with that. I have tomorrow. I'm not going to stay until 5, like unless I want to, but I'm not staying up until 5 o'clock in the morning to get something done. Right. You know, if it's 12 o'clock, I'm done. I'm not doing anything else.
Right. We'll take one more break real quick. We're going to come back, talk about the podcast, talk about Speakerazzi a little bit, and wrap it up from there. Stay tuned, don't go nowhere. We're here with Whitney Barkley.
She playing games, she ain't tryna let me in. I know that I could win if I holler at a friend. By the end of the night, I wanna bang, bang her girl. Yeah. She playing games, she ain't tryna let me in. I know that I could win if I holler at a friend. By the end of the night, I wanna bang, bang her girl. Yeah. Blueberry yum yum, blowing on that fruity. My girl got a girlfriend with a horse booty, and little mama so thick I wanna take her shopping. Colorful kiss, you know a lip gloss popping. Apple juice mouth, cantaloupe watermelon, smelling all good so it ain't no telling what it tastes like. Looking like Sunny D. I'm like a gynecologist, women come to me. So if you ain't busting down, I ain't tripping, cause I know your girl wanna ride with the pimpin'. Naked in the wheel, she ain't got no public hairs. My candy paint look like wet gummy bears. I holler 4 eyes with my real name Tony. My dug is so clean, I ain't got a stain on me. A real swinger like Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. I'm looking for a booty so juicy I could drink it. I'm thirsty. She playing games, she ain't tryna let me in. I know that I could win if I holler at a friend. By the end of the night, I wanna bang, bang her girl. Yeah. She playing games, she ain't tryna let me in. I know that I could win if I holler at a friend. By the end of the night, I wanna bang, bang her girl. Girl, you know I like it when you climb on top. You know the time won't stop. For a minute, man, a fan, a dime so hot. When I blow you back out, the spine goes pop. With a snap crackle, your quarterback gets tackled. So let your boy preach, church, tabernacle. I hit it like Wagga. I got to be honest, man. One of y'all coming with me to the promised land. Cause for easy, keep a broad to call. When I interior decorate a wall to wall. This for all my dogs, cause I rhyme so well. Just to see you smile and enjoying yourself. Cause I'm a fool when I frap in freaky positions. My sex technique or molest the best. Listen, it's like my man Ludacris said. We want a lady in the streets, but a freak in the bed, yeah. She playing games, she ain't tryna let me in. I know that I could win if I holler at a friend. By the end of the night, I wanna bang, bang her girl, yeah. She playing games, she ain't tryna let me in. I know that I could win if I holler at a friend. By the end of the night, I wanna bang, bang her girl, yeah. Bang, bang her girl.
Alright, so we're back right on Cloth Talk Podcast. Whitney Barkley is still here hanging out. So a couple more things to talk about, winding down here. You still nervous?
No. See, I never know what to expect with you because you ask crazy questions to people. Okay.
I only ask what I'm curious about and what interests me about that person.
Well, you got a curious mind. I don't know what you're gonna ask. So
everybody, it's funny. Like everybody comes on here and they say, "I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect." And then when we get into it, they like all of it just goes away. And when it's over, there's like, that was fun. I want to do that again. Like, I didn't even feel like I was,
Yeah, I enjoy it. Like I said, you're like...
I just find it funny, like, everybody, I'm so nervous.
No, I love it. I've enjoyed it. Like I said, off camera, you're like the male Oprah. I mean, I don't know a male equivalent, so you're like the male Oprah. Okay. So whatever.
I guess I gotta take that. All right, so... we covered a lot in this short amount of time. Depending on how you look at time, most people like an hour-long podcast. I can't listen to that. But let's wrap it up with these few little things. So let's talk about your podcast. You have a podcast which is doing phenomenal, which is doing very well. You're getting a lot of feedback. You've become like a beacon for inspiration, like for women, so to speak. Like, they send you messages, you get reviews. I mean, like it's been really successful for you. Talk about, the Pink Lemonade podcast.
Well, Pink Lemonade actually stemmed from Beyonce. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. Beyonce came out with her album in 2016, and it was so inspirational to me because I felt like she was breaking out of her mold. Like it really seemed like it wasn't about what other people wanted her to sing about. It's like she really took the time to self-reflect and just to be, a woman, who's vulnerable, a woman who's proud, and a woman who can admit to her flaws. Because, we see her and we're like, oh my gosh, she's flawless. Yeah. So, I kind of wanted to take that same approach with Pink Lemonade because I feel like a lot of times we're so caught up in the flow of life, right? We get thrown so many messages. Like on average, like someone gets thrown 15,000 messages every single day. Yeah. So, we hear all these messages, but it's like, what are we saying now? Like, what's really our voice? What are the things that we want to reflect about? And so Pink Lemonade became my refuge for reflection. It is literally my opportunity to sit down and think about how I feel about certain topics in the world. And my goal is to get people to figure out what do they think about those particular topics in the world, and to make sure that the voice that they hear is a reflection of themselves rather than what society wants them to think.
Yeah. And your podcast, it's a solo podcast, which I don't think a lot of people realize how challenging and difficult that can be, just to have, a podcast where you're just pretty much like talking to yourself, but you're speaking to others. Was that like at first weird? Like, I'm just talking?
No, I for some reason that format felt very comfortable for me. It feels very comfortable for me. Yeah. And the reason that it feels comfortable is because, again, like no one's dictating how that conversation should go. Sometimes when you interview people, sometimes you feel like you got to walk on eggshells, or you feel like you have to say things in a certain way. And for me, just having that solo format is beneficial because the difference is, and the feedback that I've received is, when I listen to your podcast, it feels like you're talking directly to me, versus, people are going to listen to you and I, and they're listening to us have a conversation. But when you listen to Pink Lemonade, I'm having a conversation with you. I'm talking to you directly. It's
personable.
Exactly. So I'm forcing you to think about what it is that you need to think about.
Yeah. Like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of women who look at you as inspiration, and, it sparks a fire in them. But I'm just curious, who inspires you?
Oh man, there's a ton of people who I would say inspires me. Definitely from a creative standpoint, I love Issa Rae. Like, Issa Rae totally inspires me. My friend Morgan told me about Awkward Black Girl years ago. I never got into it. But then when I started to watch it in Insecure, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's me. Like when I see her, I see myself. Like, she's this big, huge content creator. She always creates certain things. Yeah. Another person who was inspirational to me, someone who's close to me. So my friend Jacqueline Twilley, she's definitely an inspiration to me. Okay. For those of you who follow me like on Facebook and Instagram, I posted a shirt, a sweatshirt that I wore that she sent me, and it says, "Nah, I know my value." And she inspires me because she's really taught me how to understand what my value really means in this world. So just to have her in my corner, you know, that's something that I'll always be indebted to, because now I feel like I'm walking in that confidence she always told me that I had, that I didn't know.
Yeah.
As far as inspiration, of course, I love Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama is definitely, I mean, and not just because she was the first lady, but just the type of just humility that she exudes, you know, and I aspire to get to that level. And just to have that level of humility from Michelle Obama. Yeah. But yeah, I would say those are like some of the 3 people who inspire me the most.
Okay. Let's talk about Speakerazzi real quick.
Okay.
So after, you know, you said your failed, you know, beginnings with entrepreneurship, Speakerazzi seems like, you know, I get to see the behind the scenes, has been good to you. You've done very well with that. You've gone hard with it. The brand has grown. What was the idea behind Speakerazzi, just so people would know and, you know, kind of break down what it is?
So Speakerazzi is a content marketing firm. So what it is that we do is we look for people who are experts or influencers and who have a particular message, and we help them break down that message into smaller content pieces that they can use to distribute the message to, you know, to either gain a bigger following, to create certain sales, or, you know, or just to allow people to understand who they are. Yeah. So when I first started Speakerazzi, I kind of fell into it on accident. I actually got coaching for my first business, and by the end of the coaching program, I'm like, this is not what I want to do. Like, there's something else that I need to be doing. Like, I have a whole degree in media. Like, why am I not using this degree? So, you know, it forced me to dig deeper and realize that my true passion was still with media. So when Speakerazzi started, you know, I started as a Jill of all trades. You know, I did everything. You know, I would do video, I would do podcasting, I would do design, you know, like, I guarantee if you met 10 different people who have worked with me, they're going to give you 10 different answers about what I've done for them. And once, you know, I've evolved, and most particularly in the last year or so, I've learned that I can't be a Jill of all trades, because when you do everything, you're not at the top of mind. So, you know, I decided to niche down to make sure that I'm having an offering that people can really appreciate.
Yeah. Talk about, you know, your journey, just, you know, if we just like look back at a glimpse from like where you started and like where you're at, how would you kind of like sum up your growth as an individual and entrepreneur? Because you come a long ways with it, you know.
I would definitely say I'm a lot more better at discerning things, like discerning people and discerning opportunities. I would definitely. Hey, Rosie. Sorry, our cat is making a cameo appearance.
I was waiting for her to make the cameo.
I totally had to acknowledge her. Hey, kitty. So, I would definitely say more discerning about people and opportunities. You know, I don't just take people at face value. You know, I'm a lot more reserved now in entrepreneurship, not because I'm scared or anything, but because, you know, I want to make sure that my yeses are in alignment with everything else that I'm doing. Yeah. That's the biggest thing for me now. I would say back then I was kind of all over the place, where now I'm very intentional about how I'm aligning everything.
Yeah. And you also are an author.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did do that. That was a thing.
You wrote a book.
I wrote a book.
Are we getting another book from Whitney Barkley?
Yeah, I have like 2 books that are in the works. Okay. And don't get too excited. They're not like done or anything, but you know, there are 2 books that are in the works. One that Rosie, no. One that I've been working on for a while, and the other one that I'll probably spend some more time on. But again, it's all about priorities. So growing my business is my first priority now, but definitely there are some books that are coming up in the forefront.
If people wanted to read and buy the first one, where can they get it?
They can actually read it and buy it from Amazon. So the book is called The Skinny Black Girl's Guide to Freedom. I wrote that in 2017, and it kind of chronicles a lot of the things that we discussed earlier in the interview about my journey to being a skinny black girl, to going into adulthood, and to really figuring out who I am. Yeah. And it also contains those reflection questions at the end. So
right, and I'll put a link in the description of the show notes, so you can just click on it, and if you're interested in buying that, it'll be right in the show notes. I think that's all I got for you. I guess we could. What's next for Whitney? What's on the horizon? You know, without giving too much away, because I know behind the scenes you want to keep. You know, as entrepreneurs do, they want to keep some things secret. But can you give us a little bit of what to expect next from you? 2020.
2020, just expect more content from me. I made a promise to myself this year. I'm going to be a lot more consistent with Pink Lemonade, a lot more consistent with video. And again, you know, it's striking a balance. And I feel like I found that balance in my life to where I'm able to produce more. So, you know, just definitely look out for a lot more content because, again, I am an educator, so I want to teach people as much as I can when I can. Yeah. So definitely expect a lot more content from Whitney and the team at Speakerazzi.
Dope. Give out the social medias, the websites. Where can people connect with you at? If people need some business services, they just want to reach out to you, give them all that good stuff they can find you at.
All right. For business inquiries, you can reach out at Speakerazzi.com. It's the word speaker with an AZZI.com. Speakerazzi for all social media platforms. If you just want to holler at me personally just to say what's up, I'm Whitney L. Barkley on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to talk Pink Lemonade or listen to the podcast, we're available on all major platforms, and we're on Instagram and Twitter at Pink Lemonade Podcast.
Boom.
I almost said peace, but I forgot this wasn't my podcast.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for doing that. If y'all listen to her podcast, she always does this peace at the end of it. I don't hate it. It's just like
peace.
Yeah. You did it anyway. That will be edited out.
Nope. All right, whatever.
Once again, this has been another episode of Cloth Talk Podcast. I want to thank my lovely guest today, Whitney Barkley, also my wife, for just coming downstairs. I was going to say stopping through, but we're in the same house. But.
So can we go get some dinner or what?
Yes, let me sign off real quick. If you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to, follow Whitney Barkley on all her platforms, make sure you do so. Follow the podcast on Instagram. That's cloth_talk_podcast. Also on Facebook, Cloth Talk Podcast, and YouTube, Cloth Talk Podcast, Spotify, Cloth Talk Podcast. Everything is just Cloth Talk Podcast. Not that hard to find. That's it. We'll see you next time on another episode. Goodbye.
Peace.
Wait. Let's get Jerome.